Welcome to yet another edition of PCS Q&A. I'm your host, MJ Boyce. I'm the Director of Community Outreach at PCS Grades. Boom! With me, as always, is the lovely Megan Harless, our resident PCS reform advocate, and oh, by the way, resident BA, censored for little ears, in your room because we love you. We've got a great show today because guess what, folks? Orders are coming down the pipeline like it's hot. And we got a lot of peeps moving come PCS season, all right? So summer's going to look a little different today. So before we get on to that topic, before we start talking to our awesome guest and our awesome PCS reform advocate who will give us those DOD updates, let's go ahead and do those housekeeping items as we do every week. Ready, set, here we go. All right, first and foremost, we've got the answers. And if we don't have those answers, guess what? We know who does. And if we don't know either of those things, we're going to take your questions, comments, and concerns and take them for action and get back to you with an answer. Speaking of those questions, comments, and concerns, go ahead and leave them in the comment section below and we will address them in progress. And, just for the record, as always, we will be giving away a little bit of swag towards the end. And the more times you comment, question, concern, the more entries that you have to win. LOL smiley faces are always encouraged, but unfortunately do not count for an entry. Next up, we bring experts to you like Jamal Williams, who is a real estate industry professional. We bring experts like Transcom. We bring experts like housing advocates, education experts, all the way to military spouse movers. Yes, we bring them all to you so that you can ask the source those questions upfront, live, and in living color. But sometimes you're going to end up in a situation that is specific to you and your military family. And in those specific cases, you will have two forever and always resources. Number one, your local chain of command. Number two, your local transportation office. Those are the people who know you. Those are the people who are dealing with your stuff. Those are the people who take your issues and actually further them for action. Last, but certainly not least, we have to do our part, people. We've got to flatten the curve. We have to keep doing our part. We have got to flatten that curve. We're doing well with the vaccination thing. We're seeing some hospitalizations go down, but continue to wear your mask, continue to social distance, whatever it takes, because when we completely flatten that curve, guess what? We're flattening Murphy with it. You hear us, Murphy? We are coming for you. And with that, I'm going to throw it over to Megan for those DOD updates. Megan?
Hey, everybody. So just a couple of things for you today. As I'm going to tell you every week, if you have your hard orders, your official orders in hand, please get on DPS and go set up your move. Even if you're doing a PPM, you still need to set up your move on DPS because you need to let the military know how you are planning to move yourself. Now, a big update, a couple weeks ago, we talked about the 7-day window spread for your pickup when you set up your move. We've asked a lot of questions to Transcom, and we've gotten some answers that we're going to share with you. So when you go in and you set up your move in DPS, you put in your requested pickup date. This is just a request. That date that you put in generates a 7-day window spread for your TSP. Now, once you set up your move will at some point get assigned to your TSP. Depending on how far in advance you set it up, you may have a little waiting period in there. But once your TSP gets assigned to you, you get an automated email from DPS that tells you who your TSP is. So from that day when your TSP is assigned to you, within 3 days, your TSP should be contacting you. You should be talking about your pickup date, and then they should be confirming with you in writing what your pickup date is. So you will know in advance when in that 7-day window your pickup date is. You'll know it within 3 days of getting assigned your TSP, and you'll have it confirmed in writing to you. So as soon as you get your hard orders, get your move set up, because it's not only going to help give the government time to try and assign a TSP to your shipment, but it's also going to help you get the pickup day that you are requesting. So that's all I got for now. Send it back to you, MJ.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Megan. And as always, y'all, Megan goes down that policy rabbit hole so we don't have to. She puts it down in digestible, bite-sized pieces for the peeps like me. All right. on to our special guest. I'd like to introduce you to Jamal Williams out of Fayetteville, North Carolina, if you will. And I'm just going to go ahead and, Jamal, I'm going to hand it over to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, would you?
Well, thank you, MJ. I'm a Fayetteville, North Carolina realtor here in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Been doing real estate for about 5 years now, and I'm here to answer any question that you may have. I specialize in relocation. We have a relocation team here that helps soldiers transition in and transition out of the area, and it helps them plan their lives accordingly so they don't have to worry about all the bureaucracy that they may have when buying a home. We make the process extremely easy to do, and we are here if you ever need our help.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being that person. And you did say, didn't you say something about serving? Did you ever serve?
I did serve in the Army for about 20 years. I am a veteran. I decided to stay here in the local area to continue giving back to veterans. This is my way of giving back to the veterans here in the local area, and then veterans who also going to be coming into the area. So yes, I did serve.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your service, even though I know we all feel some type of way about how that's said. But I want to say thank you because, audience, we bring people here who know our business and who know what our lives look like and apply it to whatever their method of expertise is. In this case, we're talking about buying a home because, like I said, those orders are coming down those pipeline, right? And we need to start, what's first up? What are we going to do? We're here with an expert on both fronts to talk to us about exactly that. So, just for everybody, I'm seeing the comments come in. I'm seeing the questions come in. Brianna, shout out. Jenna, shout out. We're going to go ahead and get some of those answers in progress and towards the end as it fits, just in case we end up answering your question throughout. And of course, you're entered to win. So let's dive in to those questions. Are y'all ready for this? Okay. Sorry, we're all about the shenanigans here. So let's talk about buying a house. Let's talk about timing, because that's a thing. How far, ideally, in advance should a military family be contacting a realtor if they're looking to start buying a home, like the home buying process?
So I recommend that they start, contacting a realtor about 3 months out. That will give them adequate time to kind of get situational awareness of the market, discussing their preferences, the realtor asking any questions, and then also guiding them through the process. So I strongly recommend about 3 months out to start contacting a realtor. Of course, every situation is different, but that's the general rule of thumb, 3 months out.
So 3 months out. Okay. So 3 months out from like orders.
Correct. So you do 3 months out from orders or anticipated orders. So sometimes you'll be waiting for orders to come in. So if you're anticipating orders, I would say about 3 months out, start contacting your realtor, let them know, hey, it's a possibility. We may be relocating into the area. Can you give us any information about the area? Can you start sending us homes that are in the area? Is there any information you can share with us at this time? So yes, about 3 months out from anticipated orders or actually obtaining orders.
Because it changes. And just for the record, if you're in that stage where you think you know where you're going, but you're not quite sure, or you do know, hey, you got PCS grades at the helm. So you can look up at all of the options that you could end up at if it's, Fort Wainwright or Camp Lejeune, depending on which era you come from. If you know that there's a bunch of different ones, come to PCS grades, read our area guides, perhaps, pause for effect. I'm not saying you'd have influence over that if you could choose, but the more you know about an area, the more you could be like, ooh, I'm really open for this one. So yes, pcsgrades.com. All right, throwing it over to you, Meg.
Yeah, so talking about realtors, for those who are maybe first-time home buyers or those folks that are looking for a realtor to use, what should a person be looking for in terms of finding a good realtor? What type of questions should that family be asking to find a realtor that they know will work for them and be a good fit for them?
Oh, that's a great question. In my opinion, the first question a buyer should ask is this the realtor part of the relocation team? So a relocation team realtor is experienced in the relocation, efforts with soldiers transitioning in and soldiers transitioning out. So we understand the dynamics of what they're going through and what they possibly will be going through as they start the process of moving to a new installation. So that's the first question they should ask. Are you part of a relocation network? Because there's so many programs and rewards that they can benefit from by being part of that program. Okay. The next question you should be asking about is, can that agent tell them how to start and what they should expect during the process and what they should expect when it closes? So that's two questions right there that I think are very important that they ask the realtor. The next question would be about the closing costs, the financial aspect of buying a home. Sometimes a lot of buyers don't have the financial resources to buy a home. And then we'll go through that whole process to how to obtain that financial support that they need to buy a home. So those are some of the questions I think they should ask a realtor up front. And also they should also be asking a realtor about setting expectations. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of get off track because they don't know what to expect. And so the realtor can give them some things that they can, they should expect about the buying process. For example, the home inspection, how the pandemic has changed the landscape for buying a home. So those are a couple of things you should ask the realtor, and most of them will be able to fill that buyer in on what to expect during that process.
Okay, so here's the thing. I am currently actually in a similar boat. So this question, I'm taking notes. Brother, I am taking notes. Okay. So, this is buying a home is pretty big. It's like the biggest purchase of your life, right? So Obviously we're going to be a little bit nervous on it. We're going to be a little more on edge and maybe, RBF-ish, at least in my case, because I'm so nervous. If I started working with a realtor and then I realized they were not a good fit, can I back out, or is there like a point of no return?
That's a good question. So it depends. So like I said previously, if you're part of a realtor network, like the relocation network, then if you're not a good fit, they will just reassign you another agent in the network, because we believe in quality and satisfaction. So if a client is not, or a customer or a buyer is not satisfied with a realtor, is not a good fit, they'll just reassign that agent to reassign another agent to that buyer. So you wouldn't have to worry about, finding another agent. They'll just reassign it to you. Now, if you're not part of the network,
you should be. No, I'm just saying.
Absolutely. And that's something I always tell my clients. You should be part of that network. But if you're not part of that network, then it kind of goes off the state guidelines. You would need to initiate the proper paperwork to terminate the contract, because you have to have a contract to be a person's agent. So like I said, I think you should be part of the network. It makes it easier if you're not a good fit. But it's very, very unlikely that you're not a good fit. But if that does happen,
at least in your case, right?
At least in my case, yes, because one of the things I do to prevent not being a good fit is just listening. Just listen to the client and learn their expectations. And once you learn their expectations, it's very easy to give them exactly what they're seeking. And after that, if you're still not a good fit and you're part of the network, they will reassign you a new agent that will start the process over for you again.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we talked previously, about when a family should contact a realtor, about 3 months out. How far before a move-in date, before a family report date, should they be prepared to be signing on the dotted line of buying that house and closing it? Okay,
so that's another good question. So whenever you are starting the process, you got about two options. You can do it virtually, or you can actually wait till you actually arrive in the local area. Some buyers just don't have the time to come to the area because they're still working. So we use the virtual option. We'll show the client the home. That's the first step. Show the client the home. Do you like the home? If the client likes the home, or if the buyer likes the home, then we will start the process. That process is about 30 to 45 days. So the client should be expected to sign on the dotted line in about 30 to 45 days from contract acceptance. And that's when the buyer submits an offer to the seller. And if the seller accepts it, it's about 30 to 45 days to signing on the dotted line and making that home officially and legally yours.
Huh. Okay. Well, follow up to Megan's question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 30 to 45 days. And obviously, being military, that timing is everything. And trying to get all those ducks in a row don't always line up. So what happens when the military's needs change and thus our orders change?
Okay, so if your orders change, depending on where you are in the home buying process, if your orders change, and like I said, you're part of the network, what they would do is they'll put you, say, on a hold status. And so once you know exactly when your orders are, going to move you to another area, we can start that process start it all over for you again. So if you're like this, for example, let's just say you are getting ready to close and your orders change. You're getting ready to close and the orders change. You can simply terminate the contract and put you on a hold status. I've done that many times before. And then once you have a better idea when you're going to be relocating into the area, we'll start that process again. So whether you start the process and then you don't finish it, it's still about 30 to 45 days from about start to finish.
Okay, I suppose that makes sense. I suppose. Okay. So here's an issue that I'm having, and I'm pretty sure that some of these peeps watching may run into this themselves. Okay, the seller's market is hot. It's hot, y'all. And there's little, sometimes no inventory in the area that we're moving to because it's moving so fast. I'm not even kidding you. My husband and I, yes, we are in the market. Yes, we are looking at houses, but like by the time he'll find one and he'll be like, okay, I have to tell MJ about this one. And then he'll say the next morning, hey, look at this house. Oh, just kidding. It's under contract. Oh, just kidding. They took it down. Oh, just kidding. It's sold. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, thanks for the just kidding. Like, let me know when you actually got something. Well, that's been our lives for the last few months. And it's like that across the country and for the most part. So in those markets, especially because they're moving so fast, looking like months in advance might not show us what's on the market and that what's ready to buy when we have to move there in 3 months, right? So what advice can you offer to a family like mine if we get PCS orders to say California? No, let's not say California. Let's say your neck of the woods. And I'm looking for a house and I'm doing my due diligence 3 months out. But what's going on now with the housing market isn't the same thing as what might be the closer that I get there. So what would you tell your families in that situation?
Well, MJ, that happens every day, actually. Every single day that happens. So we get a new client who's looking, or a new buyer who's looking to relocate to the area, and he's like, "Hey, Jamel, I want to see what I can buy. Can we buy it early? Do we have to wait till we come into the area?" So once again, you got about 2 options. You can either do it virtually. You can do it virtually, and that will give you immediate access to the home, and then you can start the buying process if the offer is accepted. The second option, you can wait till you relocate into the area. Now, I like that option a lot better because sometimes things look a lot different on your phone or on the screen. So it's better to kind of put your eyes on the property when you get here. So my recommendation is, if possible, that you wait till you get here in the local area and start the home buying process, because homes fly off the market so quickly here. So you need to be able to move the same day the home gets on the market.
Oh my gosh. Like that's like, I'm seeing Megan's face and I'm pretty sure she's picking up what's in my brain too. I'm just saying, like, Megan, go ahead and say it. Cause I know, cause we're thinking the same thing.
No, I mean, that's just trying to think from our planning perspective, military families trying to plan, knowing like, now I can't plan ahead of time. I can't do that door-to-door move. I have to, maybe be in an apartment or another house for a certain period of time and then find a house to buy, to purchase and everything. I think, it just throws a big wrench into a lot of our plans of that having to wait, to where we're there. And one of my good friends, so your whole point about, maybe waiting until you're in the area or trying to take a trip beforehand if you can. So one of my good friends is getting ready to move, and she's been sending me housing listings of where they're going to get my opinion on them. And last night she sent me one, and looking at the pictures, it was just, trying to ask her, is this a second master bedroom that we're looking at in this picture? Or is that a Jack and Jill that we're seeing? What's that layout like? And so she was able to tell me, she's like, but I only knew that because I contacted them to ask what that layout was. With the pictures, you couldn't really
exactly
tell what it was. So I like that advice of, either, wait if you can wait, if you're willing to do that, or, taking a quick house hunting trip, into the area to snatch a house off the market. It can be very well worth that extra expense of doing that trip. So yeah, definitely some really good advice there. So we saw last year, actually close to this time, in about 2 weeks from now, we saw last year a lot of the stop movement orders that happened with the military and COVID, and how that really put a wrench into plans for families looking to buy a home. And so over the course of the past year, what impacts have you seen to the buying process that families should be aware of? Or are there any big changes in the process that families should know about now?
Absolutely. So the pandemic, as you know, has changed most people's lives tremendously. And the housing market is no exception. So the changes that I've seen personally is that buyers are willing to kind of, not do a total due diligence process just to get the home. For example, some buyers may waive the home inspection. I strongly do not advise that. So a lot of buyers are just trying their best to get a home because the inventory is so low. Just like we were just previously discussing, the inventory is so low and homes is like flying off the market. So buyers are offering over appraisal or over value for the home. They're doing everything they can to get into the home. And sometimes that doesn't quite work because we don't know what the seller is actually looking for. So my advice to buyers in this pandemic is to just stay very vigilant about what it is that they want, setting their expectations, understanding that it may take a while to find the home that you're looking for, and be willing to make some type of compromise in this pandemic, because in some cases there's like 10 offers on one house, and the house sometimes leaves the market in literally hours. So my advice to buyers: just take your time, understand that this is a pandemic, and some sellers only want virtual tours, so you may not even be able to get into the home. So just be very patient while looking for a home in the pandemic, especially here in the Fayetteville, North Carolina area. We have extreme shortage of inventory. So when a house hits the market, it's like everyone's running to that one house, just trying to get their time to see it. So that would be my advice to buyers: just be very patient with the process, because we've had some major impacts here in Fayetteville, North Carolina, a lot of impact from the pandemic.
I just wanted to ask real quick. So you mentioned doing virtual tours is becoming the new thing because of the pandemic, and folks don't want, rightfully so, strangers and folks in their home during this time. Is it more accepted, or is it becoming more standard now for realtors to be able to offer that virtual tour, to FaceTime and to walk a client through the home, and that's not much of an issue now?
No, it actually is not much of an issue now. A lot of buyers are actually asking for that right off the bat because they know they're not going to be in the local area for a while. I get asked about virtual tours literally every day. I think I do a virtual tour almost every day. I think I have one scheduled immediately following this meeting we have right now. So clients in this pandemic, the buyers' wants and needs have changed. They're very understanding about the virtual tours. So I asked the client right off the bat, would you like a virtual tour, or do you plan on being in a local area anytime soon? And majority of them say, I would prefer a virtual tour. And I've submitted majority, about 90% of my contracts are virtually. The client has not even seen the home. So virtual tours have skyrocketed now in this pandemic. And it keeps not only the client safe, it keeps the agent safe as well.
Can I also ask, so going back to my friend and her situation and looking at the pictures last night and trying to figure out, the ensuite versus the Jack and Jill versus the master, is it possible, I know pictures for real estate listings are a standard thing. Is there anything, or maybe you can push the change that instead of having pictures, there's a video of somebody, so that way maybe, I don't know. I know realtors will do the virtual home as you just said, but like having a video with commentary from somebody saying this is, walking in the home, what you first see, turning to the left, you have this, turning to the right, you have that. You're off the bathroom or off the kitchen to the left is where the pantry is located at. So that way we can have a better understanding of the home and the layout of it instead of trying to decipher through pictures, what that layout is.
Well, I just wrote that down. That's a very good suggestion. So I would like to tell you that a lot of agents do things the way they like to be done. Like when I do, when I put a home on the market, we do the pictures and we do virtual tours already. So when the home goes up on Zillow, on Realtor.com, you can take a virtual tour. It doesn't have a person telling you where it is, but it does have very nice music. A little joke there. So with that said, I'll take that back to a lot of my real estate agent friends and co-workers and let them know that that would be something that's very important to buyers and would be very useful to determine where things are in the house. Excellent question. I didn't think about that. So I'll definitely put that out to a lot of real estate agents and maybe that'll be helpful to a lot of buyers.
Yeah, absolutely. If not that video, at least including in the pictures, the blueprint layout to see what is a Jack and Jill bathroom and not, every bedroom's getting their own bathroom kind of deal.
Right. Absolutely. Very good point.
Mm-hmm. And see, that's how we roll up here, is because we've lived this and we're kind of like working on both sides of the front. We are happy to give you us our firsthand knowledge so that you can do what you do even better, which I'm sure you do great. But of course, you could, with our feedback, man, there's no turning back. I'm just saying. So we had a couple of questions. Let me see. Okay. So I think this one, Jenna has a question. Is it true that there's no longer a max limit on our VA home loan?
Okay. So I have never heard about that as of yet, a max limit on the VA home loan. I knew there was a cap, but I'm not tracking on if there is a ceiling or if there isn't a ceiling on.
Oh, choose me, teacher.
You're in.
Okay. Oh my God. So check this out. Back in January of last year, before it all hit the fan, yes, there used to be a cap. So it was like, okay, so if you were going for a home loan, you could only go for X amount. You could go for more but the government would cover that portion, the VA home loan, if you hit this much. So in some areas it was bigger, like in the DC area, for instance, it's a little higher than it is in other areas. And that was the cap. Well, guess what? They removed that cap. No more cap. No more cap. So they're back in that 25% of the, VA home loan. They're back in that much because awesome, because it was necessary, because everywhere is different. And I'm going to tell you, my husband did backflips. I mean, the houses we're looking at are nowhere near where the cap is, but he can dream. Just saying. So there's your answer, Jenna. Okay. So we did have a question. We do have a lot of questions about VA home loans in conjunction with the home buying process, which I want to let everybody know too. We're going to have some lenders. We're going to have a mortgage lender on to talk to us about that nitty gritty piece about that whole VA thing. But there are some that kind of come into this. So one of the questions was, she must have meant Jamal. With buying a home, how does one use the VA loan at 0 down? So we've been told that we have to come out of pocket 5%. And also, what inspections are mandatory with the VA loan use?
Okay, so the VA loan is definitely 0%. So you don't have to put no down payment down for a VA loan. However, a lot of buyers ask me this question, and I want to share it with the audience here. So you still have to worry about closing costs, though. The VA is 0% down. That means no down payment, but they don't take care of the closing costs. So what they have tried to do is roll the VA funding fee into the loan. So you don't have to worry about paying that, but they don't roll the closing costs. So closing costs is what you have to pay during the loan or home buying process. Your appraisal, your credit report, home inspection, termite inspection, depending on where you live in the country. So those are closing costs. In a buyer's market, the seller usually pays those closing costs. But now we're in a super seller's market. So a lot of sellers are very reluctant to pay any closing costs, leaving the buyer to bring money to closing. So I hope that answers the question.
Do you happen to know like exactly what inspections are mandatory? Like absolutely, you can't get the VA loan unless you have these inspections.
Okay, so for a VA loan, the inspection that is mandatory is the appraisal. That is and the termite inspection, depending on where you live in the country. So here in North Carolina, the appraisal and termite inspection are mandatory. There's no way around that at all. And if the appraiser goes out and he finds anything that doesn't meet the VA guidelines, he will inform the lender that he will need to do a re-inspection after the homeowner makes those repairs. If termites are found on the property, then he would recommend, the lender will recommend that the seller fix those termites. They will treat the termites and then have a structural engineer or someone with the same qualifications come out and give an all clear and then provide a letter to the lender. So once again, the appraisal and termite inspection are mandatory in the state of North Carolina.
Okay, but every state varies, right? Every state is different in terms of their requirements to obtain that VA loan. So Kelly Rich, shout out, girlfriend. How strict are these appraisals, and like, are they working differently with COVID? Because like you mentioned, like in the state of North Carolina, you must have that termite, inspection. You must have that. Obviously, it's probably going to look a little different, maybe in a state that doesn't have termites. I don't know if that's a thing. Geography was never my friend, people. But like, how strict are those appraisals? Because, is it waiverable? I don't know.
Well, the only change I've noticed since COVID is that the appraiser can make a choice whether they want to go into the home or not. Usually when the home is occupied and the appraiser goes out there, they will just look at the pictures the realtor puts online and go from there, because they want to keep the homeowner safe and they want to stay safe as well. That is the only change that I've noticed since the pandemic, that the appraiser will not go in the home if it is occupied.
Okay. So they probably aren't getting as clear of a picture as they would entering the home, but that's kind of like one of the COVID, contingencies, I suppose you could say.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So could the family request that inspector to go into the home if they say, we don't want you to use the pictures, we'd rather you like open the doors and look at the homes and look at the walls? Can the buyer request that they do that instead of just using the pictures?
I'm sure the buyer can request that the appraiser go into the home, but I'm not sure if the appraiser is permitted to go into the home if it is occupied. Okay. So I'm not quite sure on the appraiser's guidelines for COVID, but I do know that our appraiser told me that they had the option to either go in or not. But I don't know if that was something that was mandated that they followed or not. So as far as the appraisers are concerned, those inspections are very, very important, and they have a very huge impact on the buying process, the appraisal process.
Okay. And so, let me see, Kelly. Oh, Kelly Rich. She's on fire. This girl's on fire. Girl, shut up. Okay, so the VA loan means we can't waive appraisals and inspections, which is making it hard for the VA offers to even be accepted. So everything that she's looked at, as far as the accepted offers, are like waiving those. So what is your advice in those instances? Because let's just face it, Kelly, thank you for bringing that up. Sometimes not every realtor either knows about VA home loans enough to understand, but also, I mean, like, or they just don't care. It's like the path to least resistance. You know what I'm saying? So what would you say? What's your advice in instances like this?
Okay. If I understand the question correctly, is she asking, can we waive the appraisal? Is that what the question is?
No, I think she's asking, she's seen that, okay, so on the VA loan side, we can't waive these appraisals. Right. We can't waive these inspections. I'm assuming that she means that the conventional loans, ones that aren't VA home loan related, everything that all of the offers that were accepted in the homes that they were looking at did the waivers, but as a VA home loan recipient, you cannot. So what is your advice to families facing this instance?
That's a great question, because anytime I work out of my area, I notice that people are very reluctant to take the VA loan, and it's because of the stringent appraisal process that they may think is stringent, but it's not. It's a very easy process. So my advice if you're looking to buy a home in the area where conventional loans are more accepted, I think it's imperative that you find the right realtor. I mean, I have very creative ideas to ensure that the VA loan that you educate the other realtor on the VA loan process, because actually, like you said, MJ, a lot of realtors aren't very savvy about accepting VA loans. So with that said, I would definitely look for a network relocation realtor that are very familiar with the guidelines of VA loans versus conventional loans. And that will give the buyer a better opportunity of obtaining the house by educating the listing agent or the seller's agent.
So let me ask you this as a follow-up to that. Since we're already down the rabbit hole, and this is a decision I'm fixing to face myself. So what would you say to those other agents, whether in or out of your network, that have this misconception that's like, oh, it's just easier to deal with conventional loans. I don't even bother with the VA home loan because I don't have to. What are they leaving on the table? Why don't you go ahead and tell these peeps what they're leaving on the table if they don't assist their families on VA home loans?
Well, what you're leaving on the table when dealing with a VA loan, because I deal with them all the time, usually VA loans are guaranteed to close. They're guaranteed to close unless there's some other situation that prevents the veteran from closing. And another thing is VA loans, they are sometimes shorter. They're shorter in closing time depending on the lender. The lender knows that they have a guaranteed loan that if the buyer defaults, they're going to get paid. So VA loans usually go through a faster process depending on the lender. I want to make sure that point is brought up, depending on the lender. So when you in a market that more likely to take conventional loans, I think taking the VA loan will surprise you because it's an easier process. The lenders want to approve VA loans. They want to work with VA loans because it's a way to give it back to our veterans. So I think you're leaving a lot on the table when you don't accept the VA loan over the conventional loan, in my opinion.
I'm inclined to agree. And again, as somebody who's going to be a first-time home buyer, hi, how you doing? Many of you out there might be that person, you know what I mean? Like if I'm looking at it from the perspective of like Kelly, who says that, she's seen homes going for $125,000, that's dollars, people, over the listing price, and it has 55 contracts submitted, and 75% of those are like all waived contingencies because we have this on our back. This monkey's on our back. It is a requirement. The VA home loan is a benefit to our service members because they have served. That is a thing, but it's only a benefit to us. And unless others realize that it's a benefit to them, unless the agents realize, unless the lenders realize, unless the sellers realize that, then we're stuck here. So all we can do is educate those people in those positions about exactly that. Jamel don't have that problem. Jamel knows it in and out. I'm going to go to Jamel before I go to somebody else because they're going to say get a conventional loan because the sellers aren't going to accept anything different. I'm going to be like, see you, bye, deuces. And chances are, if you're in Jamel's network, you're not going to be saying those words.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying. So, I mean, I guess it all goes back to the realtor that you choose, the agent that you choose, that network that you choose. That's one of the questions that you ask in the buying process. And if they know nothing about the VA home loan, then you might want to rethink your options.
Absolutely.
I mean, am I right? Is that like, did I just regurgitate those words correctly?
You're absolutely right. You want to make sure you pick the right agent. Like I can't stress this enough. An agent that's in the network, because we're trained to deal with all types of loans and the loans that will best fit you. And then we can introduce you to a network lender that also helps. So you have a package deal. So that's what you want. You want to get a package deal. You want a network lender. You want a network realtor. And we're all part of the relocation program. And then as we walk you through from start to finish, you'll be extremely educated about the buying process. And I think you will have a better experience, in my opinion, when you're in the network because it's so streamlined. Yeah.
No, and I agree. And so I'm just going to throw this out there because, I mean, this is what we do. So we've talked a lot about, you know, the effects of the market on what we're dealing with right now with PCS season coming right down the pipeline. And with those of you who are wanting to buy, we want to help educate you on that. And, you know, Jamel mentioned this network. He told you exactly what you need to know about what to look for in a realtor. And that network is part of what so one of the things that we do at PCS Grades is put you in touch with those A-grade realtors like Jamel, okay, who know what they're talking about, who understand our lives, who understand the challenges that we face when it comes to buying, selling, orders, or home loans, right? Like, this is it was built around that for us. And that's why PCS Grades, you know, has a collaboration with these different networks and these different agents with Realogy Military Rewards, because that's what we do. Like that's no matter what part of the PCS processing you're in. If you're talking to me and Megan on Wednesdays, usually Wednesdays, today Thursday, usually Wednesdays, if you're talking to me and Megan, it's because we want to educate you from the experts. If you go to PCSgrades.com and read reviews, you're reading reviews from other military families who are living your life. If you need that, you know, that guidance when it comes to buying or selling your home, like we have that option, so that just honestly, our CEO did this and our founder did this so that we don't get screwed on the back end. That's why we exist. You're welcome. So yeah, no. And that's another thing that we do. So what Jamel says is important. Know your realtor. So that's a takeaway. Like vet them like you're interviewing a freaking admin assistant. Okay. So there's that. And know your benefits. That's the VA home loan. And if you have any questions, if somebody's not representing you properly, well, guess what? We're just going to go back to that network aspect and interviewing that realtor and vetting them, just like Jamel said. Here's a question for you from Brianna. Shout out, Brianna. Jamel, do you have a link to the network you're talking of, like a web page we could go to for finding folks like you who can help folks like us in the burn of trying to buy a home?
I thought no one would ask. That is a great question. I will definitely provide you, MJ, with that link, and you can share it with everyone that wants to go there and be a part of the network. Great question. I'll definitely get that over to you. By
the way, he's in our network. He's with us. No, he is. We are, like, because he is so great at what he does, and why he was the best one to choose to bring on as a guest to educate our peeps. Yeah, like one and the same. So we're gonna get you hooked up with that, and Jamel's gonna yes, it's gonna be awesome. And you can also go to PCSgrades.com. I hope I don't get copyrighted for that. But yes, you can. Let's see. We also have. Oh yes, Kathy. Kathy says, because she's watching via YouTube, shout out, educate your sellers with the mindset of respecting a VA buyer. Therefore, they understand that they will be seeing VA offers come through. Educate, right?
Right.
Educate. Which is why, again, you come here, because we got the educator live in living color right there. See? Left, right.
Other way.
Lord of mercy. Okay. Oh my goodness. We have a lot. Oh, shout out to Fort Carson. Shout out. We've got some of our amazing spouse sponsors in the comments thread. And so, because we like to, even though the shout outs don't count towards a win, we still like to highlight them, right? Like, hi. Oh, look at this. I think you might recognize this name, Jamel. Hello, shout out, Alyssa.
Yeah. Hello, Alyssa.
Oh, Lord have mercy. And of course, I think this message was for you too. I'm not sure, because it definitely wasn't for me. Oh, go Army.
Go Army.
Hello. I'm just kidding. We love it. We bleed purple, don't we? We bleed purple up in here. Okay, so last question from Kelly Rich. And just for the record, if any of you are catching this on the replay, we will be answering your questions because we have a huge OCONUS following, by the way, Jamel. And you got people that are going to be moving back in the States that are going to have these exact same questions. So we will be monitoring this, of course. And any questions, comments, or concerns, we're gonna stay in touch with Jamel here. And any questions that you have, he'd be happy to guide us through and answer for you as well. So Kelly says, once we've signed a contract, it's been inspected, we've already done our inspection, we're already pre-approved for our VA loan. Is there any other than the appraisal, any other thing that we should be aware of that could fall through during the waiting process other than termites?
Well, I must be honest with you. We always say as realtors, we don't say it's closed until the closing table. There's a lot of things that can go wrong during the closing process. But from what I read there, she seems to be in pretty good shape. I don't foresee anything falling apart with what she has going on now. But I would just make sure I stay in contact with the lender and I stay in contact with the attorney, because those are two major players in the home buying process: the lender and the attorney. And your realtor will do both of those things for you and update you accordingly. So I don't foresee anything falling through with that, just as long as they are very diligent about staying on top of the lender and the attorney.
That makes sense. And she says we're waiting for the seller to sign today. So we at PCS Grades and everybody on this webinar have our fingers crossed for you, sister. Okay? Fingers crossed all day. Okay? We got you. And we want to hear. Let us know how it goes, because I'm seriously curious. Let us know. And then, oh, look at this. We still got, y'all are on fire. Okay. Mari says, shout out, have you or would you know if there are sellers that are open for like owner financing or lease option if the sellers, are moving to their next duty station? I'm just curious about other options to buy in buying a home.
Okay. So what they would want to do is ask their realtor. The realtor would know that. It's normally in the commentary online when the realtor sees, the realtor knows if the seller is open to such financial options. In my market, very slim chance the seller would want to accept that type of financing, but you never know unless you ask. So ask your realtor, would the seller be open to such finance options? And if they say yes, then great for you. If they say no, then you can continue to look for a seller who would be willing to accept such financial terms. So that's what I would advise that person to do.
Makes sense. Oh yes, and Kelly, you have a shout out from Jenna as well. Fingers crossed. Again, keep us posted. Oh my gosh, because that's like a big deal. Like I'm like really, because I'm kind of like having like, I'm kind of like freaking a little, because this is a big thing, buying a house, right? Like whether it's your first, which is mine, so freak out, or last. Like obviously I work at a great place enough to help me through the process, and that's fantastic. And I'm going through PCS Grades to do this, but it's still a nerve-wracking process. So what I would love, Jamal, for you to tell our audience, while I'm getting all of these names, I would love for you to tell our audience, what could you do to ease to ease a military family's anxieties when going through their first-time home buying process?
Well, I think the best thing for someone going through the home buying process and to ease the anxiety that they may have is the right realtor. That is the most crucial point of the home buying process. And here's why I tell you this. I like to communicate with my buyers at least every other day, whether it be by text, whether it be by calling them or an email. Let them know, hey, everything's under control. You don't have to worry about it too much. It's under control. I'm sending you documentation showing you it's under control. And if you're a realtor, he or she has been trained to deal with all sorts of transactions in the real estate, process. And if they're telling you everything's under control, we sent you a contract here, the inspection went well, or here's what we're doing to remedy that. In my opinion, that has alleviated a lot of stress for buyers. And then you can see it in the reviews that they leave you. Oh my God, this is one of the most easiest processes ever. Thank you so much for keeping us informed at every turn. And so I read those comments, I read those reviews, and then I apply it to the next buyer. And most of them do not have a stressful process when they're buying a home. So that's my advice, NJ. If you have a lot of anxiety, talk to your realtor. Hey, what's the next step? And he'll say, well, the next step is X, Y, Z. And here's what we're going to do to make this step very stress-free for you. And I'll call you and give you an update about how we got through it. That's my advice to you. Lean heavy.
You mean, no, I was asking for a friend. So.
Friend.
So just for the record, people, and you can give a shout out to him too. My husband, Chris, shout out Boo. He tends to watch these to support his, wife, and he afterwards, of course, makes fun of me sometimes because I throw him under the bus like gangbusters. And so I'm asking for a friend on this one.
You got your answer now, Chris, on how it's supposed to work.
Boom. All right. And before I do the wheel of names, people, let's just, I want to thank Jamal. You're awesome. Thank you so much. And again, we bring guests like Jamal in here who just, they know what they're talking about, not just from their expertise perspective, because they've been in our shoes, man. They've been in our shoes. So thank you very much. And a shout out to Megan, really quick. I have my PCS binder, by the way. So Brianna was our winner a few weeks ago when we did a PCS prep webinar. So congrats. She's got her binder. It's been a huge help with our June 1st report date. So we love to hear that. We absolutely love to hear that. And really quick, as I'm getting these names together, we did have a question, a policy question for Megan.
Brianna also.
It was. We're told we can't have a DLA, dislocation allowance, advance at all, and that the entire move has to be put on the GTC. Is this true? Is there a rule to this to allow us to have DLA advance to move ourselves fully?
So it depends on your branch of service, unfortunately. So if you are Navy, it is either use the GTC or get the advanced DLA. It is one or the other. You cannot use both. If you use the GTC, yes, you can still get the DLA on the back end, but you cannot get the advance for that. If you are any other service, you should be able to apply to have that advanced DLA and still use the GTC. So it really just depends on what your branch is. Okay, so I see your Army. You can totally use, you can totally get the advanced DLA and use the government travel card as well at the same time. The policy was changed in October 2019 by General McConville to allow us to have advanced DLA, because a lot of us use that advanced DLA for like housing deposits that we can't put on the GTC, and for other things that we can't put on the GTC, which is what it's designed for. And, it's dislocation allowance, other non-reimbursable expenses. So I have the copy of the policy letter that General McConville signed. We'll drop it in the comments when we get done here. So you'll have that, Brianna, so you can be able to take that to your finance and show them. But being Army, you can totally get advanced DLA and use the GTC at the same time.
Word.
Wow.
See, just like that. And we hope that helps, Brianna. And in the event that the person who is counseling you through your PCS negated to mention that, again, you can message us anytime. And obviously Megan's our buddy. I mean, she's just not going anywhere. She's the resident BA, remember? Just saying. All right, so we're going to do those wheel of names, people. Get ready for that drum roll, please. And please don't mind my brain. I did close out the majority of my tabs, so you didn't have to see my crazy. All right. Here we go. Okay, are you ready, folks?
Yeah.
Drum roll, please. Well, would you look at that? Yay. Congratulations, Brianna. Brianna, you win a Hope Design This You Shall PCS necklace. And trust me, you'll wear it because it will give you strength for your June 1st move, which we want to stay in touch with. By the way, we're going to be like tracking that all day. Okay. We're going to be tracking it because we care about our people. And you're pretty awesome. And you ask the great questions, just like Kelly, just like, Mari. All our audience is pretty much just awesome. Okay, so thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Jamel. You've been a great source of information. To those of you catching it on the replay, again, we're staying in touch with Jamel. We're going to be dropping some of those links that we spoke about today into the comments section. And our awesome content editor over at PCS Grades has transcribed or will transcribe this webinar and put it into blog form so you can read it, click the links, and go to town. So until next week, Megan.
This too shall PCS.
Bye, everybody.